Greetings and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. I'm Pastor Janice Fareed Hardy of Fresh Fire International Ministries, and I have a question for you. Do you live an I must do life, or do you live an I choose to life? Now, your answer will determine your life, okay? To me, Jesus' miracles and deliverances, they were designed to get people out of the I must do this life and into the I choose to do this life. Okay? Now we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Let's start out talking about this I must do kind of life. What is that? What does it look like? This is where our decisions are based on I must do what we've always done, what my family's always done, what my church or my ministry has always done, what my culture has always done, and even what I believe successful people have always done. Okay, I must do it this way. That's really the outside world telling us what we must do with our life, and us not taking the time to find out what else God probably has on the table for us. When you live an I must do this kind of life, it can happen. Let me tell you something. It can happen unconsciously. And people around us, people who love us, they will push us to stay in that frame of mind, to not rock the boat, even, okay? But it will have you bound to someone else's tradition or safety net or someone else's fears and insecurities or even your own fear, etc. When you live an I must do this because there's no other way kind of life, you have put yourself in a jail cell and you have locked the door, okay? It makes you powerless to see and to be more. It shuts down your mind, all right? Now let me give you a few quick examples of what an I must do this kind of life looks like. And then afterwards, I'll talk to you about how those situations would look with an I choose to kind of life. And we're talking about Christian life, okay? Reverend Edmund Chan, he leads a megachurch in Singapore, and he has told the story a few times of, how he sees Christians jumping from one Christian conference to another Christian conference to another Christian conference, and they're going from conference to conference to conference, and they wind up with someone else's vision, okay? The speaker's vision, but not God's vision for them. And they try to imitate and to implement the speaker's vision, which may be nowhere near to what God wants them to do. The conferences are okay, but if they limit you to this is the way it must be done, or that's the way it must be done, or you must look like this, or act like this, or have this style, or have that style, you will never grow into what God has for you. It's an I must do, frame of mind. I must do what they do. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. Another example, quick example. A woman I worked with for over 30 years. She was there when I got there and she was there when I left, okay? She had been separated from her husband from before we even met, okay? And even though her husband had a common law wife and he had children by that common law, wife, and they had children. Now my co-worker and her husband, they were not enemies. In fact, they were very cordial, okay? They were very cordial with one another. And I asked her one day, why don't you get a divorce and just move on with your life? And she told me she did not push for a divorce because she wanted to get his pension. Okay? She wanted to get his pension basically when he died. So she felt, I must stay legally married so I can get get this money. He owes me at least that much. Unfortunately, she died about 5 years after I left the company. She died. And guess what? Her husband got her money. So this I must do this kind of frame of mind, it can really be very self-deceptive, and it can rob you of a whole life, all right? One more example, okay? A single woman, okay, who had beautiful children, and they were grown and married, and she had sacrificed a lot for her children, as many parents do all of their lives. And even when they were, grown, she would help them, if they needed help with anything. But they were beautiful children, successful children. Her life, this woman's life, was her church and her children, and she did not venture beyond those two things. She became very ill one day and was hospitalized. She went into a coma, and the doctors did not think she was going to live. So they called her children into the hospital, so they could say their goodbyes to their mom. The children did not know. They did not know that even in the coma, their mother could hear them. The mother heard her children talking about what each one of them was going to do with the money the mother was leaving them. In other words, they had already accepted, well, mama's going to die, and so they had moved on to talking about what they were going to do with their new, what with their inheritance. All right, now the mother knew that her children loved her, but these grown kids had some great plans for their inheritance. Days later, the mother did come out of the coma, and she lived for at least another month, okay, at least another month or so. And when I would visit her for hospice care, she would tell me about that conversation. She said she never told her children that she heard them, but for the remainder of her life, that month or so, it grieved her that her children were more concerned about their inheritance from her than grieving, really deeply grieving, and even having hope that their mother, their mother's life, okay? Their mother's life, all right? She, I think, in many ways had been afraid to venture beyond taking care of her children, but she lived an I must life. I must take care of my children. I must be there always for my children, whatever their needs are. I must, because there is just, there's no other way. I'm their mother. I must. A moral of all of these stories is to be careful of who and what you're living your life for. The I have to or I must way of life, it is bondage. And you will never be living the life that God has waiting for you to live. Okay, you will never get there in that I must frame of mind. Okay, so let's switch to the other side now. The I choose to frame of mind. What does that look like? What am I talking about when I'm saying I choose to? Within the I choose you mindset or the I choose you Christian life, it means that you are pushing yourself to see more than your immediate world or your immediate circumstances or your immediate environment. In the book of John, chapter 5, very, very familiar story, verses 1 through 15, Jesus asked the lame man at the pool, do you want to be healed? In other words, do you want to be able to make some of the I choose you choices in your life? But the man kept giving Jesus I must answers. I must come here every day to see if an angel is going to come down and stir the pool for healing. I must come here every day to see if someone, even if they're sicker than me, to see if they will put me in the pool if and when it stirs. I must do these things. I must, because there's no other way for me to get healed. How many I must do you have? Okay? All right? Now, this is what an I choose to person would do in these circumstances. Let's start with the conference, being a conference hopper. First of all, an I choose to person, a Christian, would not be a conference hopper. Okay, this is how an I choose to kind of person would go to a conference, okay? Christian or otherwise. They would never go to a conference expecting someone to make them, okay? First of all, they would figure out why they are going to the conference, all right? And why it's necessary for them to go, even if they had to write it down. And then they would go to this conference or whatever they would go to in their mind saying, I choose to go there, and reminding themselves, I choose to go there. I'm here because I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, okay? And I demand to get these things while I'm here at this conference or whatever. That I choose to mindset will begin to shape your mind so that you even hear differently, and so that even you are even attracting people to you that are not just nonsense people, okay? It's nothing wrong with being friendly and all of that. I mean, fellowship, yada, yada, yada. But if you're going to a conference and you're spending money on this thing or even not spending money on it, basically you're going for a reason. Know why you are going and go with the intention of not leaving until I get that. I love the way Jacob said when he was wrestling with with what they call the man in Genesis, I'm going to wrestle all night. I'm going to wrestle until you bless my soul. I'm going in here knowing what I want, and I'm not going to, just be in here just flapping my hands. Know what you want, okay? Know what you want. Let me give you an example of what that looks like, a quick example. What it looks like. Sunny Hostin, the one who's on the daytime show, The View, she tells this story that she became a lawyer, she became a successful lawyer and married, and she and her husband decided to have a child. They had a child, and she decided to stay home. She chose to stay home with her child for a while. So when she chose that she was going to go back into the workforce, she chose that she was going to accept only a job that had flexible hours. She was not just going to take any job. She was not going to, accept the 9 to 5. She wanted a job with flexible hours so she could be with her child or with her children. Okay, so she decided she would start out by going to a networking event. She went to this event. And while there, she spoke with people, and she started speaking with this woman whom she did not know. And as they talked more and more and more and more and more, this woman told Sonny, "You should be on television." Okay, Sonny didn't know it, but that woman, who did not expect to meet Sonny there, no one knew who was going to be there. But that conversation was really an interview. And this woman said, "Sonny, you need to be on television." And as it turned out, that woman was a decision maker at one of the court TV shows. And she told Sonny, "Send me your headshot and your resume immediately." That's how Sonny Hostin got into broadcasting. And I agree with Sonny, and many of you probably agree, there's no such thing as coincidence. But when you're going into a situation, into a conference or networking, whatever, and you know what you want, you are far more likely to get it than if you just go in there with whatever, we don't have time for this whatever stuff, okay? And it's a lot more than being intentional. It means that you're giving yourself permission, okay? Permission to know what you want and to believe that God wants you to have it, okay? I choose to. The Bible says in Matthew 7:7, "Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you." So in other words, ask God and then ask yourself to get with the program, okay? To get with the program in faith that you really can get what I choose to have, okay? I choose opens up. It even attracts people and things to you because it's almost like, it's like God is saying, God will look down and say, okay, this person is ready for this, okay? When you say I choose, it opens up. When you say I must, it closes up and shuts down. Okay, really quickly. I know our time is moving along. The woman who was waiting for the pension, if she could have allowed herself, given herself permission to move into an I choose frame of mind over 30 years, 40 years, instead of waiting for someone's pension, for them to die so you can get their pension and get some, extra money every month, instead of living that way and saying, something, I choose to take authority over my finances, over my wealth. She could have taken $100, okay, and invested that in something. And over the years, she would have come out with hundreds of thousands of dollars, which I can guarantee you would have been more than that little piddling of a pension that she was waiting for her husband to die. And isn't it gruesome to even have that kind of to shape your mind to where you're waiting for someone to die? And Christians will do it in a minute. But nonetheless, even during that time when I was working with her, some companies did, and they still do. Some of them would allow anyone, to invest $25 a month, or if you want $25 a week, every month, a week, whatever term of time, whatever time you want, into that stock. And it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. She could have left with so much more than she was wasting her life, a whole lifetime waiting to get, okay? You can do it for yourself. I choose to, says I take control of my life. And if what I want is wealth, God, show me how to get that, how to get that, how to get this. Our God owns everything. What are we stuck being tied and shackled to some other human being who doesn't want us anyway? But that's another story. Okay. That last example was the woman with the children. She always had fantasies of being a counselor and a teacher, and she was good with that kind of stuff, but she would not go back to school to get it. She would push her children to go, paying for them to go into college, to go here, to go there. always putting her desires and her wishes, because she is like, and some of it may have been guilt because she was a single parent. I must take care of my children. I must do this for my children. But meantime, God put breath in your body, okay? God gave you this gift of life. You have no right to take God's gift of life to you and give it all to somebody else. No, God gave you that gift of life to live your life. So when we get into an I choose, she could have had her tuition paid for by her company. But she was into the I must. That I must will shut you down. The I choose will open you up. Everything that she wanted, God had put her right in the environment to get it. Tuition paid. She could have had a job, gone to other jobs within the same company even to do those things that she always wanted to do. But she would not get into an I choose to frame of mind. When we don't live an I choose to frame of mind, we rob ourselves. And we almost make a mockery of God, okay, and the gift of life that He has given us. I choose to. All right. So in conclusion, let me say, when Jesus healed someone or set someone free, He challenged their I must way of thinking in order to lead them to and offered them an I choose to way of thinking and an I choose to mind. Look at the woman, almost any story you can look at. The woman at the well, she had 5 husbands, all unsuccessful, and now was living with somebody else's husband because that's what she felt she was worth, okay? And Jesus challenged her to move out of that I must live this kind of way life into an I choose to kind of life. He opened it up. You don't have to live that kind of way. That's not even who you are. That's not who God created you to be. And from those conversations, it led her to become, when she made that I choose to decision, it led her to become one of the first evangelists in Christianity. Same thing with Paul Saul, going around killing Christians, thinking he was, doing the will of God. I must be this mighty warrior who will go around and, grab Christians and imprison them. After he had that encounter with God, where God challenged them from doing this, I must be this local, powerful commander, God opened up, once Paul opened up his mind to, I choose to see things differently. Once he stepped into that I choose to frame of mind, Paul was on his way to becoming a worldwide, not a local, but a worldwide apostle and evangelist. And 2,000 years later, we are reading his writings in the Bible. If Paul had stayed in that I must frame of mind, we never would have heard of Paul, and somebody else would have been writing 2/3 of the Bible. Anyway, step into the I, purposely get into the I choose to. Challenge yourself. Look at the way that you're thinking. I look at the way that I think too. And occasionally examine yourself. Am I living an I choose to or an I must kind of life? Are my decisions I choose to, are they opening me up, or am I living making decisions that are I must, which is shutting us down? And let me say this really quickly as I begin to close. Every time we live in move into an I choose to frame of mind, we are opening one door. We're saying hello to possibilities, but we're also saying goodbye to other possibilities. Every time you're moving forward, you're letting go of something in the past, and you have to let it go if you are going to be fulfilled in an I choose to kind of life. All right. So before I leave, if there's anyone listening who does not know Jesus, I invite you, to come into the kingdom of Jesus Christ so that you can become all that God has created you to be. I will say this, you will never be all that God created you to be until you come and get to know the person of Jesus Christ. And you can do that, according to Romans 10:9 and 10, by believing in your heart and confessing what I'm about to tell you. Okay, here we go. You can repeat it after me, but you've got to believe it. Jesus, come into my heart. I confess my sins to you and believe that you died on the cross to forgive me. I believe you are the Son of God and that God raised Jesus from the dead. So according to your word, I believe and confess that you are Lord. Therefore, I am saved. And you know something? You are. So the next step, whether online or in person, depending upon what's going on in your area. Get into a church, okay? Become active in a church that teaches and preaches the gospel in a way that you can understand it, okay? That's important. To continue your growth in Jesus Christ. And welcome to the family of Jesus Christ. And for everyone, okay, if we at Fresh Fire can help you with your Christian walk, reach out to us. You can go on our website, www.ffIministries.com. That's www.ffIministries.com. Okay, and use our contact page. Contact us through that. Okay, that's the easiest way and fastest way to get to us. We would love to help you in any way that we can. And everybody, please remember, I choose. Okay, don't give away your God-given power or your gift of life. I choose to. God bless you.